Hi all, welcome to Math Easy. Today we are going to talk about the square root of a number. What is a square root? Square root of a number is the number you can multiply by itself to give you that number. I will explain this to you with examples. Consider root of say 36. Okay, this 36 can be expressed as 6 times 6, right? It can be expressed as 6 times 6. There is one rule for square root. The rule is that if you have two same numbers inside this square root box, one of the number can go out of the box. This is the square root box. If there are two same numbers inside the square root, one of the number can go out of the box, which means that when there are two sixes inside the square root, it can go out as 1 6. So that is what is the root of 36, which is 6. Right? Now consider root of 49. Now you know 49 can be expressed as 7 times 7. As I told you, if there are two same numbers inside the square root box, one can go out of the box. So since two sevens are there, I am taking one of the 7 outside. Right? Now consider root of 100. These are all called perfect squares. What do you mean by that? Perfect square means it can be expressed as the multiplication of two same numbers. For example, 10 times 10. So one can go out of the box. So perfect square root means that you can express it as the multiplication of two same numbers. For example, what is 2 times 2? It is 4. So this is one of the perfect square root, right? Because if you say root of 4, you can express it as 2 times 2 and 1 will go out. So these are all called perfect squares. Examples of perfect squares are 1 times 1, 1. So if you say root of 1, you can express it as 1 times 1 and you can put the answer as 1. So it's a perfect square root. Then the number 4, because you can express it as 2 times 2. Then comes 3 times 3, 9. 4 times 4, 16. 5 times 5, 25. 6 times 6, 36. 7 times 7, 49. 8 times 8, 64. 9 times 9, 81. 10 times 10, 100. 11 times 11, 12 times 12. It goes like that. So for all this, we have got a perfect square root. Okay. Now, what are imperfect square root? What I told you is a perfect square root which can be expressed in this way. Now, what is an imperfect square root? We will see some examples for that. Suppose you are saying root of 18. Okay, square root of, say there is a number called 18. What about the square root of 18? You know this 18 can be expressed as 9 times 2. Okay, you have to remember whenever possible, you should express these numbers as a multiplication of one perfect number and one imperfect number. For example, if you put it as like 6 times 3, you don't have anything like 2 times 2 or 3 times 3, nothing will bring you 6, right? It's an imperfect square. Again, nothing will bring you 3. But here you can see this 9, 3 times 3 is 9, right? So it will give you a perfect square root. So I am putting this root 18 as 9 times root of 9 times 2, because now I can break down this 9 as 3 times 3. That's what I told you. It should be in a perfect combination for the square root. Times, I am putting this 2 down. So what will happen? As I told you, according to the square root rule, if there are two same numbers, one can go out of the box. So 1 3 will come out. But what about 2? There is no other 2, just 1 2 is there. So you have to write it as such. This is how you have to do in case of a imperfect square. One of the examples of the imperfect square goes this way. Right? Now let us see root of say 360. Let's take some big numbers, right? 360. First, let me give a factor tree for this for you. That is, what is 360? Can we break down this to 36 times 10, right? This is a factor tree. 36 times 10, yes, it is possible. Now, this 6, can you express it as 6 times 6? 6 times 6, 36, yes. What about this 10? It will be like 5 times 2. Fine. So, if you are going to use a tree factor, it's going to be like this. So, what is 360 now? It is root of, what are all the numbers? 6 times 6, which is 36 times 5 times 2. So, 2 6's are there, one can go out of the box, 6. And inside this, what you have? 5 times 2. So, which means 6 root, what is 5 times 2? 10. Okay. So, I will explain this to you again. If you have some other number, say root 360, this 360, you can use the tree factor, or else you can just write it as 36 times 10, right? 36 times 10 is 360, correct? And now this 36 I am breaking as 6 times 6, and 10 I am breaking it as 5 times 2. According to rule of square root, if there are two same numbers, one can go out of the square root box. So, I am taking 1 6 out. And then root of 5 times 2 is there, which is 6 root 10. So, this is all about the imperfect root. Now, let us see what if the case there is a negative sign. So, to start with, for the negative sign, I have to tell you something. There is one thing called as I, which is called the imaginary number, and the value of I in the case of square root is root of minus 1. Okay, the value I, that is, if you have something in your problem like root of minus 1, you will substitute it by I. I will explain it to you. Consider root of minus, say, I'll put a number, say 81. Okay. Now, I am going to rewrite this 81 as root 81 times root of minus 1. When you multiply this, you are going to get minus 81 only. It's very simple. I am just breaking it as root 81 and I'm separating the negative sign as root of minus 1. Right? You don't have to get confused. This simply means that 81 times minus 1. So, I am breaking it as root 81 times root of minus 1. Okay? I think it will be clear for you now. And as I told you, 81 we can break it as 9 times 9. Again, times root of minus 1, as I told you, you have to substitute the value I, which is the imaginary number, that is I. And according to the square root rule, as I told you, if there are two 9s, one will go out. 9 times I is going to be 9i. So, that is the solution for root of minus 81. Okay. And suppose, consider if there is a negative value outside also. So, this is one thing, right? This is inside, there is one negative value. Now, consider the situation where I have negative value outside as well as inside also. What is the case? You will just put this negative as such, outside negative value as such. And the same way as I broke this, you can write this as this root 36 times, as I told you, when there is one negative value here, you can write it as root of minus 1. Okay. This 36 I am separating, this negative value I am putting as such. Okay. This 36 I am putting like this, and the negative value I am placing it as root of minus 1. Now, what will be the answer? This negative I will place it as such. 36 is going to be 6 times 6, right, times root of minus 1. And as I told you, 6 times 6, it's when it is inside the square root box, 1 will come out, 6. What is root of minus 1? It's an imaginary number, say I. So, the answer for this problem is minus 6i, negative 6i. Okay, so we have seen two things. Negative is there is just one negative inside the square root, one negative outside and one negative inside the square root also. Now what if the case I have negative outside? I am saying like negative root of 25. Whether the I will come for this, let us see. You will place this negative as such, and 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 5 is 25. So I am putting the negative as such and taking 1 5 out, because according to square root rule, if there are two numbers, one will come out. So the answer for this will be negative 5. There will be no I in this case. The I will come only if we have root of minus 1. Remember that. When it is outside, when it is not inside the square root, when the negative sign is not inside the square root, definitely you should not write I. Only for root of minus 1 or negative 1, you have to write this imaginary number I. You have to remember that. Now let us consider another example. Let us say 4 root of say 32. This example. Here you can see 4 root of this 32 can be expressed as 16 times 2. How will I know I have to write it as 16? Because you can see 16 is one of the perfect squares you can make. Okay, one of the way it is. Okay, so it is 16 times 2. And I can break down the 16 as 4 times 4. And this 2 I am placing as such. According to square root rule, 2 4s are there, 1 4 will come out. Now what is happening here? I will explain to you. 4 is there, I am breaking this 32 as 16 times 2. That step is over. I am putting the 4 as such and breaking the 16 as 4 times 4 is 16. So I am just breaking it to do 4 times 4. I am putting this 2 as such. In the next step, what I am doing, there are 2 4s inside the square root, so 1 will come out. When 1 comes out, you have to multiply it with the whole number which is already there outside. Because there is already 1 4 outside, one more 4 is going to come out. So you will just multiply those. And this root 2, you don't have anything, any other number with it, so just put root 2. What is 4 times 4? 16, then this root 2. So you have to remember, if there is one whole number already outside and if one more number is going to come out of the square root, you need to simply multiply it and put the root. If any other number in the root is there, you will just put it and you will finish it off. Okay. Now I will tell you one more example. Say 4 by 9, root of 4 by 9. 4 can be expressed as 2 times 2. 9 can be expressed as 3 times 3. Again, as I told you, 2 numbers are there. So, 1 will come out naturally. 2 numbers are there. 1 will come out. So, 2 by 3 will be the square root 4. 4 by 9. So, hope you have understood about the square roots concept. If you find this video helpful, please subscribe to Math Easy channel. Push the like button. Thanks for watching.